All right. Excited for another episode of Restaurant Catering Crumbs. I am super excited to be here today and talking to you guys about one of my favorite topics, which is the team side of things when it comes to executing catering orders. We know that getting $100 lunches out the door is not something that is easy or something that can be done by yourself. If you try to do it by yourself, we all know that that's not pretty. And so we really harp on how important it is to be working together and making catering a team effort inside of your locations. For many of you, you are working with a corporate office team. So maybe you're representing multiple locations, multiple brands. And so today we are going to be talking about the importance of how who really is responsible for catering sales. I think many of you are probably sitting here saying, well, I know it's me that's responsible. Whether sales are up or down, I'm typically the one that's going to be getting the phone call for that. But we believe heavily that catering sales are not only a team effort at the local level in getting orders out the door, but it's also something that's really important at the corporate level. And looking at, I would say, your catering programs as a whole, this is where this can kind of be important. So I'm going to go ahead and try and share my screen here, and let's see what happens. Hopefully that's all looking good, Terry. And if not, definitely let me know. But as I said, we are going to be talking about who is really responsible for growing your catering sales. This is not about having one singular person, one single catering sales rep. I know some of you are the best in the nation, best in the country in growing catering sales, and I'm sure you're saying to yourself, "Well, I could grow catering sales there." And I think the important thing when it comes to growing catering sales is that you may be able to grow it for a couple orders, but it's not something that will be sustainable. And so when you are thinking about growing your catering sales, I'm sure many of us can relate to, what happens, that terrible feeling when a sales rep goes out and gets a brand new corporate contact and the food arrives late. And you're like, oh gosh, I'm so sorry, this will never happen again. And then you get them to trust you and they do it again and the food shows up late. Or maybe the recipe changed, or the food didn't travel well and it got really cold, and the Alfredo sauce coagulated, and the pasta was really dry. No follow-up system. It was really hard for them to place an order. You name it. Catering salespeople, their success relies on many different things when it looks at it. Salespeople, they can open the door, but the only way that you can continue to keep these doors open is when this is truly a team effort across every department inside of the company. So when we think about the catering growth, the reality of where this growth really comes from, obviously we believe heavily in having a sales team. You have to have boots on the ground. You have to have people talking about it. You have to be getting out in the market and building those relationships. Catering is 100% a relationship-based business. And so we talk about that, it's a long game. It doesn't happen overnight. And it takes a lot of things really compounding on top of each other to see and feel that overnight growth. Sure, you may get one order here and there that contributes to that, but it's something where it's really important that you're taking into consideration that you have to work together and you have to build a plan. And I would say the second most important thing is that every single department within the company drives catering growth. And again, definitely a big misconception, because they look at all of those catering sales managers that are out there and say, why are sales up? But more often is why are sales down? And so it's really important that as an organization, if you are prioritizing catering, you are thinking about how is every single department within our organization taking responsibility for catering growth. And so thinking about it, you've got six departments, six key departments. You, depending on where you work, these may be broken up differently. They may be consolidated. You may have people wearing multiple hats. But you have got, the finance team, IT, training, operations, marketing, culinary. Sales is its own department. And so that's why you don't necessarily see it up here. And we've spoken at length about how you guys can be growing sales. But really important to think about this. This is one team, right? This is one team working towards the brand. And the only way that catering growth will come from that is if these departments are prioritizing it. Some may say, that's not my department, that's not something I work on. But trust me when I say every department is playing a role in the success of the catering program. So a lot of text here, but that's because there's a lot of important things for us to be covering. And so just starting on, the finance side of things, I think what's so interesting about this is when we get conversations about people, how do you start a catering program? These 6 departments are actually where you start a catering program. Some may say menu, some may say technology, some may say packaging. But trust me when I say, if you're looking at starting a catering program, you need to look at every single one of these departments and how they impact the success of it. So when we talk about the finance side of things, right? Finance is the foundation because the reason why we're doing catering sales is because we want to be making money, right? We want to be using it as an incremental growth channel. And so if your menu is not making money, then you shouldn't be doing it. Or it's your charity work, right? It's just like showing up to an event and donating food and labor and all that good stuff. And so really you want to make sure that your menu pricing is not just taking your existing menu items that work on your regular menu and converting that into an item that feeds 10. You want this to be something that is accounting for the fact that it takes extra labor to put together 100 box lunches, or that beautiful branded catering box costs $12 instead of, that brown bag that really only costs a nickel. A nickel, gosh, what year is it? 25, 35 cents, depending on where you might be. And so you want to make sure that your finance team feels really good about the finance related to catering orders. Why that's important for a sales team is that we get the question all the time, right? What's the discount? Can you give me a discount? Can you get me a different menu? Can you meet my budget? All of those questions come up for the sales team. And without feeling really comfortable about the finances behind your catering menu, they can be really difficult to answer. Or you can find yourself cutting a deal for somebody that isn't going to be profitable for the business and you'll end up losing money on. Now, I totally feel that at the end of the day, somebody eating your food is the best advertising that you could do. So I would never say you're losing money on it, but it may not be that incremental sale that maybe you're looking for. When you're looking at the menu pricing, I think the other thing that's really important is taking into consideration marketing. Build in a marketing budget in your catering menu so that you can be doing things like discounts, sponsored listings on EasyCater, factoring in those commissions, or you can be factoring in, the fact that it took a tasting to get that, get that catering order, or you wanted to include free dessert on it. Give yourself that flexibility by pricing your menu correctly from day one. The other important part that finance plays in the success of a catering department is really related to the sales team, the goals that they're presented with, as well as those comp plans. Salespeople are hungry, and if you put a number in front of them, they want to be able to go after it and they want it to be achievable. Not something where you're just giving away money for no reason and the sales team isn't incentivized by it, but something that's truly going to move the needle when it comes to the catering side of the business. And that can be things like decreasing the percentage of EasyCater orders that you're receiving, right? Not decreasing, but converting those customers over. Incentivizing those best practices are going to be things that are going to keep that salesperson excited about it and keep them focused on the things that are going to be making a difference inside of that business, right? It's every salesperson's frustration that they went out and they did all this, marketing and they did all these events and blah, blah, blah. And then the guests went online and they didn't get credit for that sale. And so it's important that that finance team is structuring those comp plans in a way that keeps the salesperson motivated and keeps the program profitable. And gosh, most importantly, is something that's easily tracked and understood. The second that there is that gray area where they don't know how much they're making, you don't know how much you're paying, you're going to open the door for frustration. And that's where you'll end up losing your salespeople and them getting frustrated. The other important thing is regularly reviewing the financial aspect of catering. What percentage of sales is catering inside of your business? And are you talking about that inside of every single meeting? Every finance person should know that number and should be talking about it and talking about how they're driving to grow that number. Businesses that have that higher percentage of catering orders are going to see not only more profitable sales, but they're going to see those repeat customers coming in. Again, catering can be advertising for you. Where finance also has to work very closely with the marketing team is truly understanding any of the promotional aspects that we're going to be doing. Is it better to be giving $25 off a $150 order, or is it better to be giving away a free tray of cookies? Obviously, you got to work with marketing to figure out which one's going to resonate with the customer, but having a true understanding of the discounts available that are going to move the needle on that are going to be important for marketing to be able to go out and talk about and salespeople to promote. The more clearly that you have that defined, the easier it is and the quicker you can move in taking advantage of those. IT. This is such a hot topic and something that I know everybody loves to, use this as sort of a blocker in being able to get catering sales, to grow catering sales, or even just to get started. IT is not just online ordering. IT covers so many different segments, and it's important that you have the buy-in from not only your IT teams, but they're obviously working closely with the marketing teams to make sure that you are capturing not only the appropriate information, but there's a good guest journey mapped into it as well, right? When a guest goes to place a catering order, what does that experience look like? And we can't stress it enough, and I would recommend that as a team activity, is go through and try and place a catering order and look at all of those different checkpoints within that process and make sure your IT team understands what those anywhere from 6 to 10 steps could actually be. From how did they find the website? Were they able to log in and place an order? What about those modifications, timing on it, quotes, delivery? What was the follow up email and the guest survey that came from it? So, in addition to the 6 departments that play a role in it, there are so many steps to the individual process of a catering order that it's really important that your teams are looking at and managing. IT is also important on the operations side of things, which obviously we're going to get to in just a second. But IT sets your operations team up for success. So that means pack sheets, that means making sure modifications are coming through. What time does it pop to the POS system? Can they make modifications to the orders? What happens if there's an item that's 86th from the menu? And so making sure that IT understands their important role in making catering scalable is going to be really, really important on this. Integrating with different partners like those, easy caterers or cater nations of the world to get those so that they automatically flow into the POS and keep the operations team working seamlessly. CRM systems, whether you're using any of the ones that's out there, is the data appropriately flowing in there so that you can continue to be remarketing to them? Catering can be a data game, and you want to make sure that you're capturing all of it so that you can use it to your advantage in the future. Obviously, on the security and reliability side of things, especially during those peak times, holiday season, we have all been there when you launch an LTO or you get that dreaded email, the website's not working. And so making sure that that team has a backup plan in place for, God forbid, something goes wrong, what happens to all of those pending catering orders? We had a great partner that this happened to last holiday season where there was a modification in the system related to a holiday package that got pushed between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So before Thanksgiving happened, you had all those holiday orders in there and Christmas, and every single one of their catering orders, they had to call the guest and replace the order. So making sure your IT team understands, prioritize those orders at all costs. Those modifications, those pushes, those things, they can typically wait. And if they can't, make sure you get an understanding of how that's going to impact your business. Marketing, we talk about some of the easiest ways to grow your catering sales, and marketing is one of them. Just simply talking about your catering program can make a difference. And we find that so many organizations, they don't talk enough about it, right? They don't send the email to their database about it. They're not keeping it in as a secondary messaging. Nobody's posting on social. There's not a poster in the restaurant, you name it. Partnering closely with your marketing team can make sure that you are capitalizing on those opportunities as they come through. Marketing's responsibility when it comes to catering is make it visible, make it desirable, make it top of mind, communicating those messages. Really important when we talk about the sales materials and the leave behinds. Sometimes it's not about using the word catering. Sometimes it's talking about, feeding your groups or party packs or really positioning catering as a way to be feeding multiple people at the same time. So partnering with them closely on that to make sure you have the right materials and the right materials that can be selling when you're not there is critical to the success of it. Marketing also partners very closely with supply chain and ops, depending on where they live in these different departments related to the packaging side of things. Again, everybody wants that beautiful $12 Jersey Mike's looking box that's colorful and logos and it stands up nicely. But some of us aren't there yet, and that's okay because there are definitely opportunities for you to tap into branded materials from a marketing standpoint that can communicate the message of your business without having to go down that path of placing placing a massive order and a massive investment on it. Especially if you're just getting started with your catering program, you want to make sure that you have a full understanding of the packaging needs that you may have. You don't want to go out and buy a box that fits two half pans if you find out that you really only ever use one half pan and things are jumbling around inside of the box. So make sure you feel really good about it. Getting that sort of craft, brown, white paper box and putting a sticker on it or putting a flyer in it. It can be the materials that are going along with it that can make a big difference. The other thing about catering is really that proactive marketing calendar. Timing is everything when it comes to catering. So, when are you reaching out and are you reaching out at the right times? The time to be talking about placing a Cinco de Mayo catering order is not on Cinco de Mayo and it's not the day before. And so, make sure your marketing team understands that while they may be sending their general marketing email, right, trying to drive main mealtime transactions on the holiday, marketing is something that's happening a week to 2 weeks out from that. And honestly, for some of these occasions, even earlier. So having a good relationship with them so that they understand that there are differences in those timelines is really important. Some of the holidays that we celebrate in the catering space may not be the holidays that they're celebrating in the main mealtime channel. And if they're not familiar with it or thinking about it, it's something that can go overlooked. So make sure you're partnering with them closely on that. In restaurant visibility touch points, right? We talk about this. Is it the napkin holder? Is it the rack card holder that's at the register? Is it the button that every single one of the team members is wearing? Is it the sign that's on the front door? Every single touch point that's within your four walls is an opportunity to be talking about catering. And again, I can't say it enough. Sometimes it's not about just catering. Sometimes it's talking about parties and feeding groups and feeding your sports team or that corporate office celebration. Make sure you're using a variety of different words to be talking about your catering program. The other thing that's really important is the consistent tracking of all of these different marketing efforts. Make sure your materials have a QR code on it and make sure it's a QR code that you can scan and you know exactly where it's coming to and what that journey is so that you can say, man, we haven't had a single person scan the QR code that's sitting on the tables. A, I would say, is the QR code working? Always a fear. But B, I would say maybe we need to switch up the design on it, or maybe we should instead of investing in printing, the cards for on the tables related to marketing, maybe we'll invest that in postcards that we can put in every single one of the bags instead. So lean on them to have that data component of it to really know what's working from a marketing material standpoint, so you can be efficient with your spends. At the core of every good catering program is going to be your menu, right? And so obviously we talked about finance pricing it correctly, but we are at the mercy of our culinary teams to really build that menu, that product, that offering that's going to drive those repeat orders. We know that catering orders, typically from the time that somebody finally puts it in the box and says it's done to the time that it's actually being consumed, can be about 45 minutes to an hour. And so if you haven't looked at what your food looks like sitting for an hour, I challenge you to all do that because you want to make sure that that product is traveling well. And it's something that when it gets set up inside of that office, it is the best representation possible of your brand, right? You may not have that branded packaging. And so that food could just be sitting there. And wouldn't you rather people say, God, where is this food from so that I can go enjoy it, right? So I can go get it. Instead of saying, oh God, this was not my favorite lunch. I'm going to go order something. We talk about, I think there's a statistic that's out there that says 60 or 70% of employees that experience a restaurant inside at the office turn into a regular customer down the road. And so those are some chances that you really want to play against to get those customers inside. Great acquisition tool. When you think about the menu side of things, the other thing that's really important is the flow and making it easy to pair well together. We recommend obviously having those individual packages, and those could just be your entrees that are on the menu, but help that guest make that decision. Make it simple, make it easy. You want that to be, only a handful of options, right? 4 or 5 box lunches, 2 or 3 different catering packages. You've got your a la carte options. You've got your desserts, your drinks, whatever it may be. Make sure that your menu is checking those boxes and don't feel like you need to create a custom catering menu for this. You want this to be a taste of your brand, right? Get those guests interested so they can come into the restaurant and be like, God, I have to get my hands on that BLT or that chicken parm. The other important thing where culinary plays a key role in this is definitely on some of the custom menu side of things. So whether it's an allergy or you've got a sports team or you've got some brand activation that's happening, you need your culinary team to be able to move quickly, to move profitably, and to understand what you're trying to accomplish. We see this a lot on the sports meal side of things. So partnering with the finance team, coming up with that price point that makes sense, that not only is a great portion, but maybe it doesn't need to be the full portion that you're offering in your main entree, making it, healthy, protein driven, whatever it may be. So getting them to understand their role in building menus, having multiple different types of menus is going to be really important. I'd say the last thing that is culinary plays a big role in that is continuing to become more and more and more popular is everything related to the allergy side of the business. Have your team truly write out what those recipes are, what's included in there, what allergies, what gluten, what milk, what dairy, you name it. Because if you can do that once and you can do it from the beginning, it makes your life that much easier. And this is something that people are specifically filtering and looking for, and there is nothing worse than when a guest says, I'd love to place an order today, but do you use peanut oil, right? Or is it, is there dairy in this product? And so having those answers clearly defined from the beginning or understanding what the modifications or options are going to help you to be able to close guests that much faster. And the training side of things. Training is what makes all restaurants click, right? You can have the best menu in the world and it can be profitable and you can have this beautiful advertising for it. But if your teams are not familiar with how to execute it, it's not even worth talking about. And so when we talk about the catering program, making sure that all employees in the building are comfortable with the catering program is critical to the success of it. That doesn't mean every person in the room needs to know how to execute a box lunch, but it's really important that everybody knows that we do catering, we do delivery, we've got great programs, great menus, and we'd love to feed your team is what's going to be most important. Team members can naturally be speaking to guests when they're checking them out and engaging with them. We always talk about, right? Look for the logos. If somebody comes in and they've got, an Audi logo on their polo, or maybe they've got a Wells Fargo hat on, whatever it may be, not only is this a great way for your teams to be providing guest service, engaging with guests and making it feel like it's more of an experience than a transaction, but this can be something where you can ask them, hey, we've got a great car dealership program for catering, or gosh, we loved partnering with, the Boys and Girls Club. We should definitely do that again. We've got a great fundraising program. So the more that they feel comfortable with talking about the program, the more they'll find ways to integrate that into what they're doing. Kind of like we said in the beginning, around the IT side of things, is that you don't really know what your program is like until you try to place an order. I challenge all of you to, have those mystery shops and those quality audits. What does it look like when you place a catering order? If somebody asks a team member about catering, what are they saying? The biggest anxiety I have is, right, somebody calls the restaurant and somebody answers the phone. Oh, we don't take catering orders, or we don't do that, or I'm going to put it down on a piece of paper and I'll hand it to somebody and it goes nowhere. Making sure that you've got protocols in place to make catering top of mind. It's a team effort for every single person is going to be really important, not only to growing sales and growing awareness, but making sure that it's a team effort in those four walls and everybody's invested in executing catering at the highest level. The big thing that we're seeing right now too is that with new stores that are opening, if you implement catering from day one, it'll be part of the culture from day one. If you try to force catering in at a later point, it's definitely difficult. I get operations are busy, but if you make catering and community part of that initial opening package, this is going to be something where it will always be top of mind. It's not going to be something extra on top of it. And I would say, lastly, operations, right? We all know this is where the sale can be won or lost. There is nothing worse than an order that goes poorly inside of the four walls. And it's not always operations, right? If they're not set up for success for all of the other departments that we were just talking about, if every other department isn't taking responsibility for the segments that impact operations directly, you can't blame the operations team, even though sometimes you feel like you want to. But when we talk about the operations team, if every other department is truly doing their job, it makes it easier for them to be doing their job, right? We want them owning that full order experience. From the second that that order comes in and they're looking at it and making sure, hey, do I need to bring in extra staff to help get these box lunches out? Or gosh, you know what? I think, Jeremy, the delivery driver, is off next week. Let me go ahead and schedule somebody for this. we always talk about growing catering sales is being in tune with each and every order that's coming in, right? Treat every order like an individual order, like a brand new guest. That's your opportunity to make or break it. The second that you get, I would say, maybe cocky, or you assume it's an easy cater order, so we don't really care, or you want to treat every single order as like it is the greatest opportunity to be growing your business significantly. Accuracy is a non-negotiable, and so I can't recommend it enough of having systems in place to make sure that teams know what goes in every order, they know how to get it out the door, and they're planning ahead for this. This leans into training, this leans into the culinary side of things, right? All of these departments working together to make sure that everybody's set up for success. That's what allows operations to be able to get those orders out the door and get them out correctly. Kind of like we're talking about this being a team, catering execution inside your four walls, it is a team experience. And so every single person inside of there is responsible for the execution of it. And not only the execution, but also the sales side of it, right? They are the ones that are controlling the interactions with guests and delivery drivers. And so they are responsible for those catering sales. We love to say that, sales is just really great customer service. And so if every single person in your building is great customer service, not only will your sales go up, so are your catering sales. We do know that things happen in operations. And so, being proactive in handling that can be critical. Things happen. Delivery drivers don't show up, water mains break, fryers go down. And so it's important that you take the time to update the guest and provide a resolution before it's a problem, right? Fryers go down, things happen. If you can't get a catering order out the door, don't call the guest and tell them, "Hey, I can't execute your order, or I'm canceling it, or I'm rejecting it," right? Help them find a solution. Have that partner in the community that you can call, say, "Hey, I've got a problem here. Hey, can you help me get this order out?" Right? Have plan B, plan C, plan D fully defined within your four walls, so that when and if something happens, you are prepared with a resolution to be able to execute against that and preserve that guest relationship. Same thing, capacity planning. We stress this as an activity that you should do. Of how long does it take to get 100 box lunches out? Because that's where orders get delayed, right? Everybody's excited about getting those massive orders, but if you do not truly prepare and back yourself into it, you'll end up late. Things will get missed. Things get sloppy, and it becomes a problem. And then it's not even worth getting the catering order. So make sure your teams are truly comfortable with looking at what does that execution look like. It starts with having a really great training manual, right? Starts with really great training materials so everybody knows what it takes to get those catering orders out the door. And so definitely that mindset shift. Everybody loves to say that it's a cater. I'm not a salesperson, or it is the catering. We've got a catering sales manager for that, or catering sales are down because of the sales manager. But the true reality of it is that catering sales grow when every single person within the organization is focusing on what their responsibility is when it comes to growing catering, right? You want to look at it and know that finance feels really good about those menus and is excited about helping that salesperson send or sell 10 more of catering package A, because they know that we've got a 30% profitability on those packages. So how can we sell more of those? How can we get people excited about it? Culinary, knowing that, man, we're pushing the right products this month, or by adding individually wrapped cookies, we saw the average check go up by a couple bucks. Getting everybody excited about it is going to make a difference in that team environment, but having an understanding, and I would say the compassion for that salesperson at the local level. Your salespeople will succeed when they feel supported and when they have the right tools to be able to do so. And so, your action item this week, every department has got one, right? Finance, pull your last day of catering orders. How much are you actually making on these? IT, what is the current catering tech stack? And have you tried to follow the journey on it? Every single department can look inside of their operations and say, how am I supporting catering this week? What's one thing that I can do to be helping to grow catering sales? And the more that you are taking that and you are implementing it at your leadership level, is the more that people will not be able to sort of put it on the back burner, right? Everybody thinks, catering sales, we'll get to it. Or, well, we'll review that menu when we get there, and then you haphazardly sort of put it together. But if you are meeting as a leadership team, as a corporate organization regularly, which I'm sure many of you are, how are you having that quick catering alignment within that? Start every meeting talking about catering. And trust me when I say, if you start every meeting talking about catering, it'll suddenly become a priority. Every single department is responsible for the growth of catering sales at their organization. And I would challenge you, make it a team effort, do it together. Place a couple different catering orders and see what that experience is like. The best thing that you can do is be your own customer. Be your own customer and see what it takes with that catering experience. See it as a team, dissect it so that you can feel confident about every single step of the process. And so again, it's not just the sales rep that's responsible for the catering growth. Now, much of it is them, and we talk about how they're most important in driving that true revenue growth. But we need every single person within the organization to take responsibility for growing those catering sales. Every single person is a salesperson when it comes to catering. They all have opportunities that they could be contributing from a catering order, whether it's their kid's school, it's their birthday party, they are asking the local supplier, they're asking their accounting department. There are so many ways to be talking about catering. And the sooner that you have everybody bought in on that and figuring out how they can be contributing, the greater you're going to see those catering sales grow. Terry, I think that's it.